Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are really strapping in for something quite complex.
Yeah, this one's a beast.
We're looking at a massive project blueprint called Social Synergy, or Kuonoki Gunageya in Greek. You send us the plans, all 27 documents, split across 5 categories, A through E.
That's right. And if you, like us, have tried to actually, make sense of all 27 deliverables, it's overwhelming, fast. We're talking project charters, financial models, deep tech specs, investment agreements, the works.
Exactly. So our mission today is basically triage, but smart triage. We need to cut through all that volume and pull out the absolute must-knows.
The P0 priorities, stuff flag as critical for opening the way.
Right, and the core execution roadmap. We want you to understand how this thing is supposed to work, what has to happen, and when, without getting lost in the weeds.
And the when is crucial here. We absolutely have to talk about the timeline. It's brutal.
Brutal is a good word. The entire plan hinges on getting all the vital approvals, the APP milestones, and the financial closures, the FIN milestones, done within a single, incredibly tight 6-month window.
Just 6 months. And it's not arbitrary. It's tied directly to the Cypriot presidency of the Council of the EU, January to June 2026.
So if they miss that window,
The whole opportunity could just evaporate. Political alignment, funding windows, it's high stakes.
okay, and the mechanism to make this happen. You mentioned a critical path.
Yes, success absolutely depends on sticking to a very rigid sequence of dependent tasks. That's the critical path. And underpinning it all is a pretty unique governance setup.
How so?
One single entity holds horizontal ownership, accountability for everything, every single deliverable.
Really? All 27?
Every single one. The Cypriot Republic, acting as the competent authority, is designated as the universal owner. They are the accountable party in the RACI model for all 27 documents.
Wow. So one throat to choke, essentially.
You could put it that way. It's meant to ensure a unified strategy, stop things from fragmenting, which is a huge risk in something this complex, involving multiple ministries and stakeholders. Economic, technical, social, it all has to align.
Okay, that makes sense. Centralized accountability as a risk mitigation strategy. Let's dig into the details.
Right, let's start at the beginning. Category A. This is the strategic foundation, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the core document is A1, the project charter.
A1 is ground zero. Nothing significant starts without it. Think of it as the project's constitution.
So what does it actually do? What does it lock down?
It formally establishes the project, number one, defines the big strategic goals looking out maybe 12 to 24 months, and critically, it sets the scope, what's in, what's out.
Super important to draw that line early, prevent scope creep.
Absolutely vital. And A1 isn't just about vision, it sets hard, measurable success criteria.
Okay, like what? What are the key performance indicators, the KPIs, right at the top level in A1? They're very focused on the end user, the citizen. 2 main ones. Households benefited. That's the simple count of households getting a cost reduction or joining the scheme.
Okay, a volume metric.
And the second is cost reduction. This has to be specific, measured either in euros per kilowatt hour or total euros saved per year per household.
So tangible financial impact for people.
Exactly. It forces everyone, tech teams, finance teams, to focus only on things that actually move those 2 needles. Brutally simple, in a way.
And A1 demands a baseline zero for these, right? Starting from scratch.
Precisely. Measure all progress against that starting point. But the real kicker is the deadline for A1 itself.
Yeah, you mentioned the tight timeline. When does A1 need the stamp of approval?
This is the first major choke point. The A1 approval, the APP milestone, is January 31st, 2026. End of the first month of the presidency.
Wow. Okay, and that unlocks everything else.
Pretty much. It's the absolute prerequisite to start serious work on the financial blueprint, A3, the technical architecture, B1, the algorithms in B2. A whole cascade depends on hitting that January 31st date.
Is that normal? Putting that much pressure on getting the foundational document approved within the first 30 days of a 6-month political window.
Normal, no. Aggressive, highly. But it signals the urgency. There's zero buffer at the start. If A1 slips into February...
The dominoes start falling.
Exactly. Q1 approvals get pushed into Q2. Q2 scaling targets are suddenly at risk. That A1 approval, it's like the main valve. It either opens the project flow or shuts it down right at the start.
So A1 sets the what and the when. But you mentioned it defines the who as well through that RCI model.
That's right. The RCI model clarifies roles. Responsible, who actually does the work. Accountable, the buck stops here, the decision maker. Consulted needs input, and informed just needs to know.
And you said the Cypriot Republic is universally accountable.
For all 27 deliverables, yes, they sign off on everything. They're ultimately answerable, politically and publicly, for the project's success or failure.
That sounds like a huge concentration of power, but also risk. If that single accountable entity becomes a bottleneck.
That's a fair point, a potential vulnerability. But the idea is that execution risk is distributed. The responsible roles, the R in RACI, are assigned to specialized bodies.
Ah, okay. So who's responsible for what, for example?
Well, the Ministry of Digital Policy and Energy, they're responsible for B1, the system architecture. They own the tech details. The Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare, they're responsible for D2, the Energy Poverty Plan. They own the social methodology.
So the doing is spread out, but the final deciding is centralized.
Precisely. Compartmentalize the work, centralize the strategic sign-off.
And A1 also sets up the actual project machinery, the committees.
Yes, it formally defines the core governance bodies. There's a steering committee for top-level oversight and big decisions.
Standard stuff.
Then the PMO, the Project Management Office, that's the engine room day-to-day tracking, managing the schedule in E2, handling changes via E1.
Okay.
And finally, a technical committee. This is the group of experts ensuring the tech side, B1 and B2, is sound, interoperable, and fit for purpose.
Got it. Now, moving quickly to A2, the executive summary. If A1 is the internal rule book, A2 is the external pitch.
Exactly. It's framed as the investment proposition. A2 tells the story to stakeholders, potential investors, the public. It uses that classic narrative structure.
Problem, solution, result.
You got it. Problem, energy costs, energy poverty, grid instability. Solution, this smart, decentralized community energy system. Result, lower bills, social inclusion, a more stable grid. It basically translates A1's internal goals into a compelling external message.
It's not just talk, right? A2 includes a call to action to CTA. What immediate things does it demand?
2 key actions to show momentum right away. First, sign MOUs, memorandums of understanding, with 3 specific municipalities. Get those local partners formally on board early.
Essential for actually building things on the ground.
Absolutely. And second, formally establish the steering committee. Move from paper structure to actual functioning governance body. These CTAs make the project real, tangible from day one.
Okay, let's pivot to the timeline itself. Managed by E1 and E2 in the document set. We keep coming back to this 6-month presidency window. How is that time actually broken down? Is there a strategy within the sprint?
Oh, definitely. It's a very deliberate 2-phase attack crammed into 2 quarters. Q1, January to March 2026, is all about foundations and approvals.
Getting the paperwork sorted.
And the baseline locked. All the version 1 drafts of key docs, and critically, securing all those approvals, APP, we talked about A1, A3, C1, the technical ones, B1, B2. Everything needs the green light by the end of March.
And then Q2, April to June.
Q2 shifts gears completely. It's execution time, delivering the final FIN versions, hitting financial closures, and crucially, starting the scaling process, getting those first communities live.
So if Q1 slips...
Q2 is basically DOA, dead on arrival. You can't execute if you don't have the approvals and the finalized plans.
And navigating Q1 depends entirely on that critical path sequence. Lay that out for us again. It shows how tightly linked everything is.
All right, the sequence is absolutely rigid. It starts with A1, the charter. $8 to A3 to C1, C2, to B1, B2, to D4 to SIA to E2.
So A1 approval on Jan 31st. That unlocks A3, the business case.
Correct. And you need A3 done to finalize C1 and C2, the financial model, and the overall financing strategy.
Okay.
And only then can the technical teams really finalize B1 and B2, the architecture and algorithms. It's interesting, right? The finance plan has to come before the final tech design is locked.
That dependency seems counterintuitive sometimes, but it makes sense if funding dictates the scope of the tech.
Precisely. The money available shapes what you can realistically build.
And again, that January 31st A1 date is the absolute linchpin. If A1 is late, A3 is late, C1 is late.
And suddenly your crucial technical approvals for B1, B2, which should happen in Q1, are getting pushed into Q2, competing for time and resources with the actual rollout and financial close. It's a recipe for chaos.
Which is why the project management tools in Category E are so vital. E2, the roadmap and Gantt chart. It's more than just a list of dates, isn't it?
Much more. E2 is the visual blueprint of the entire schedule. All the milestones, who depends on what, resource allocation. It's the granular detail.
And it has a specific status.
Yes. After the initial baseline schedule is formally locked in the deadline, for that is March 1st, 2026, mid-Q1 E2 becomes the official single source of truth for the schedule.
Meaning?
Meaning if there's any disagreement about deadlines, progress, or delays, the latest approved version of E2 is the final word. No arguments, no different versions floating around. It enforces discipline.
But things do go wrong. Schedules slip, scope needs adjusting, budgets change. How is that handled?
That falls under E1, the overall project management plan. E1 contains the formal change control process.
Ah, the dreaded change control.
Necessary evil. Any deviation from the approved baseline schedule, scope, budget, anything significant has to be formally proposed, reviewed, approved, and documented in the change log, which is part of E1.
So there's a paper trail for every change.
And crucially, the accountable party, the Cypriot Republic, has visibility and signs off on those changes. It prevents uncontrolled drift.
Okay, so this tightly managed process, this critical path, it's all driving towards those big Q2 milestones at the end of the presidency. What are the absolute must-hit targets?
Two major ones define success in Q2. First, the big financial one, achieving the first close, tranche A of the Smart Investment Agreement, SIA. That's targeted for May 15th, 2026.
So getting the first chunk of serious investment money in the bank.
Exactly. That validates the whole financial structure. And second, the big operational one, right at the finish line, getting 50 communities live by June 30th, 2026.
The last day of the presidency.
Coincidence? I think not. The final E2 update needs to reflect that 50 community milestone being hit just as the presidency window closes. It's all geared towards that final date.
Okay, let's shift gears to the tech. Category B, this is where the rubber meets the road. B1 system architecture, B2 algorithms, and documentation. These are P0 priorities too, right?
Absolutely mission critical. B1 is the blueprint for the physical and digital infrastructure.
So what exactly does B1 specify? We're talking hardware, software.
All of the above. It details the hardware. The specs for the PV panels, the battery energy storage systems, BES capacity, chemistry, everything, inverters, smart meters.
The tangible stuff.
Right. But also the network architecture connecting it all, the core data platform specifications, how the AI and optimization algorithms from B2 plug in, and crucially, the interface protocols for talking to the grid operators, the DSO and TSO.
The distribution and transmission system operators, getting data in and out reliably.
Essential. But B1 isn't just about features, it's about how the system performs, the non-functional requirements.
The often overlooked but project-killing aspects, like what?
Exactly. For critical infrastructure, handling sensitive data, non-negotiables. Security has to be baked in. Scalability, the design needs to handle growth, maybe up to 190 communities later, without a total rebuild. Availability system uptime guarantees, and GDPR compliance. Privacy by design.
Failure on any of those.
And the whole system is basically useless no matter how clever the algorithms are.
And that GDPR piece, that has its own hard deadline linked to the architecture.
It does. They need the GDPR Privacy Impact Assessment, PIA, completed and approved by March 20th, 2026, still in Q1.
Why so early?
To ensure the architecture itself is compliant before they start building it out at scale in Q2. Fix privacy issues in the design phase, not after deployment.
Makes sense. What about risks identified in B1? Hardware, infrastructure risks.
The big one flagged is meter incompatibility. If the new smart meters or the BDS control systems can't talk properly to the existing national grid infrastructure.
You can't bill people, you can't optimize dispatch, game over.
Pretty much. Mitigation relies on pilot projects in a few communities first to iron out the kinks, and ensuring full compatibility with the national IDMS. The Interoperable Data Management System. Basically, the standard way energy data is shared nationally. Compatibility here is key for seamless integration.
Okay, so B1 is the what? B2 is the hang, the intelligence, the algorithms.
Exactly. B2 defines the brains of the operation, the algorithms that make the system smart and actually deliver the savings.
What core functions do these algorithms cover?
4 main use cases defined in B2. First, forecasting, predicting TV generation and energy demand accurately. Second, storage dispatch, the logic for the battery management system, deciding when to charge or discharge the BESS.
Optimizing the battery use.
Third, demand response, algorithms to incentivize shifting energy use away from peak times. And fourth, tariff optimization, calculating the best possible price for members based on dynamic grid conditions and forecasts.
Sounds complex. How do they know if these algorithms are actually working well? What are the technical KPIs?
They're very specific. For forecasting, the key metric is MAPE, demand mean, absolute percentage error on the demand forecast. They have a target, say, under X% error.
Accuracy matters for optimization.
Absolutely. Bad forecast, bad dispatch, lost money. Other KPIs include SOC health state of charge, health monitoring for the batteries. That's crucial for predicting maintenance needs.
Right, predictive maintenance.
And directly linking back to the main goals, measured savings in euros per household during the pilot phase. Does the tech actually deliver the promised financial benefit?
So they need proof before rolling out widely. How do they get that proof?
Through the proof of concept, the POC. The results from the POC are due March 31st, 2026, end of Q1.
Another critical end of Q1 milestone.
Yes. The POC results need to validate that the technology works as expected, achieves the target savings, and is technically feasible at scale. This builds confidence for the big Q2 investment push.
We talked hardware risks in B1. What about risks specific to the algorithms and data in B2?
Two big ones stand out. First is data drift. This is where the underlying patterns in the data change over time. Maybe consumer behavior shifts or seasonal effects are different than expected. This can make your finely tuned predictive models less accurate.
So the models need retraining or adapting.
Constantly. The second risk is more physical but impacts the algorithms directly. BES failures. If the battery storage equipment fails, it obviously screws up the dispatch optimization and impacts availability guarantees.
And how do they mitigate BES failures? This links back to finance later, right?
Definitely. It's a layered approach in B2. First, strong warranties on the hardware. Second, robust predictive maintenance, using data like that SOC health KPI to fix things before they break.
Proactive, not reactive.
And third, maintaining a specific spare ratio, having enough spare parts or even whole units on hand locally to swap out quickly and minimize downtime. This triple shield is vital because, as we'll see, uptime is directly tied to revenue and penalties in the investment agreement.
Okay, that brings us neatly to the money, the financial pillar. We saw Q1 is about getting approvals to prove viability before the big Q2 investment comes in. A3, the business case, and C1, the financial model, are key here.
Absolutely pivotal, and they're tied together. Both A3 and C1 need their final approval, APP, on the exact same day, March 15th, 2026, middle of Q1.
Synchronized approval, why?
Why? Because they represent the complete financial picture. The business case, A3, justifies the why and what. The financial model, C1, shows the detailed how. Investors need both locked down simultaneously before committing funds for the May closure. Delay one, you delay everything.
Makes sense. What kind of hard numbers does A3, the business case, need to show?
It has to be rigorous. Quantitative analysis is mandatory. We're talking NPV, net present value, IRR, internal rate of return, the payback period for the investment, detailed breakdown of CapEx and OpEx.
Standard financial metrics.
Yes, but crucially, modeled across different scenarios, base case, optimistic, conservative. And A3 must include sensitivity analysis, often shown as a tornado chart.
Where does that show?
It highlights which assumptions or variables have the biggest impact on the financial outcome. Things like energy price fluctuations, how many people sign up, regulatory changes. It tells investors where the biggest financial risks lie.
And that risk analysis feeds into C2, the financing strategy. How does C2 propose to actually fund this thing?
C2 lays out the plan for the capital structure. It explores different stacking scenarios, how to combine various money sources. We're talking grants, maybe EU or national subsidies.
Free money. Nice.
Well, usually comes with strings attached. Then debt financing loans, maybe specialized green bonds. And finally, equity investment. C2 figures out the optimal mix.
And it sets targets for lenders. You mentioned DSCR before.
Yes, C2 sets the DSCR targets, debt service coverage ratio. It's a key metric for anyone lending money. It measures the project's ability to generate enough cash to cover its debt payments, principal, and interest.
And the target here is 1.20x. What does that number actually mean in practice?
A DSCR of 1.20x required post-money after investment means the project's cash flow available for debt service must be 1.2 times its total debt obligations for that period.
So a 20% buffer.
Exactly. It's a solid cushion. It tells lenders the project can comfortably meet its payments even if revenues dip slightly. It signals financial health and lower risk. A DSCR below 1.0 means you can't even cover your current payments.
Okay, now for the really sharp end. The Smart Investment Agreement, SIA. This is where promises become legally binding contracts, right? Covenants.
This is where the deal gets real teeth. The SIA translates performance metrics, financial, technical, even social, into legally enforceable covenants. It directly links operational performance to financial consequences.
Give us the main example, that DSCR target.
Becomes a core financial covenant. The DSCR platform must stay above or equal to 1.20x, but there's a floor too. If it drops below 1.0x for 2 quarters in a row.
Penalty box.
Big penalty. It triggers a standstill on expansions. The project is forbidden from rolling out to new communities until the DSCR recovers. It's a powerful incentive to maintain financial discipline. No growth if you can't pay your bills.
Wow. Okay. And you said social goals are also covenanted, like the energy price.
Yes, the commitment to affordability isn't just a promise, it's contractual. There's a price covenant. The target price for members is set at 0.266 euros per kilowatt-hours.
Very specific.
If the actual price charge goes more than 3% above that target, it triggers a penalty the holding company has to pay. This forces them to manage costs effectively to keep energy affordable, protecting the core social mission.
Let's connect back to the tech. That BES availability, we talked about the battery uptime. How does that feature in the SIA?
Perfect example of the linkage. There's a technical covenant. BES availability must be at least 98%. Uptime is critical.
And if it drops below 98%?
The variable fees paid to the project operator are reduced pro rata. So technical failures or poor maintenance directly hit the operator's wallet. It makes reliability financially essential.
Okay, so penalties for failure. What about rewards for success, particularly on the social side?
Yes, the SIA cleverly includes positive incentives too through social covenants. If the project outperforms on key impact KPIs, maybe they exceed the Kiora reduction targets or reach significantly more vulnerable households than planned.
Good news gets rewarded.
It can result in a bonus,
Right.
specifically additional basis points, like a small percentage increase paid into something called the KSY pool.
KSY pool, what's that?
KSY stands for Konuke Loge, the project name. The KSY pool is essentially the mechanism for tokenized revenue sharing.
Ah, blockchain territory.
Potentially. It represents a share of the platform's future revenues that can be distributed to stakeholders, maybe reinvested, or used for community benefit funds. By linking social outperformance to a bonus in this pool, the SIA creates a direct financial incentive to maximize positive social impact. It aligns profit with purpose, at least in theory.
Interesting mechanism. The SIA also mentions on-chain oracles, transparency, KYCML. Sounds like they're building in regulatory compliance from the start.
They have to. The SIA mandates high transparency. Performance data, for example, needs to come via on-chain oracles, likely pulling data from the Digital Citizen platform mentioned elsewhere.
Making the data verifiable, immutable.
That's the idea. Build investor trust through verifiable data. And yes, strict compliance with KYCML, know your customer, anti-money laundering, and the travel rule is baked in.
Why the travel rule specifically? That's usually for crypto asset transfers.
Because of that tokenized revenue share, the KSY pool. Even if it's initially distributed privately, handling value digitally triggers these requirements. The travel rule mandates sharing originator-beneficiary info for transactions above a certain threshold, preventing illicit flows.
Complex. Are they worried about crypto regulations like MiCA?
They seem to be mitigating that risk. The documents suggest the initial issuance of any tokens linked to the KSY pool will be private only. This likely helps them avoid, or at least delay, the extensive requirements of the EU's MiCA regulation, or needing a full prospectus, which apply mainly to public offerings. It's a pragmatic way to handle the token aspect within the tight timeline.
Let's focus now on the social and social synergy. Category D, social impact. The whole project's legitimacy rests on delivering real benefits. Document D2, the energy poverty plan, must be critical.
Absolutely. P0 priority. D2 isn't just aspirational. It's the operational plan for the social mission. It details how they will identify households experiencing energy poverty.
Which isn't always easy to define or measure.
True. So the methodology for identification is key. Then, the plan outlines the targeted support mechanisms, maybe specific tariff structures, energy efficiency support, and crucially, it sets a measurable target for reduction. They're aiming for a specific percentage decrease. Let's call it NESI percent.
And to measure that reduction, you need a starting point.
Exactly. D2 requires establishing a clear baseline T0. They need to quantify the level of energy poverty before the project interventions begin, so they can actually track progress against that target.
Beyond just reducing energy poverty rates, what other social or impact KPIs are they tracking?
It's broader than just cost. They're measuring the reduction of energy poverty percent, obviously, but also environmental impact, quantified as co-avoidance in tons.
Okay, the green aspect.
Then there's self-reported well-being, likely measured through surveys asking people about comfort, financial stress related to energy, etc. And finally, local employment, tracking things like local labor hours used in installation and maintenance, trying to show community economic benefit too.
This focus on data, especially sensitive data about energy poverty, creates a real tension, doesn't it? A2 demands transparency, public dashboards, open data,
Yeah.
but D2 deals with vulnerable people.
It's a core ethical challenge. You need transparency for accountability to show taxpayers and investors the project is working, but you absolutely must protect vulnerable individuals.
What are the specific risks here?
Two big ones flagged are targeting errors, giving support to the wrong households, or missing those who need it most, and the risk of stigma. If data about who is receiving support becomes public, it could stigmatize beneficiaries.
So how do they balance transparency and privacy? What's the mitigation?
It's all about careful data handling. The mandate is GDPR by design, privacy embedded from the start, and rigorous anonymization techniques applied to any data used in D1, the overall social impact assessment, and D2. Aggregate data, like the overall energy poverty reduction percentage for a municipality, can be made public for transparency. But individual household data must be anonymized or pseudonymized, stripped of identifying information, before any analysis or reporting that could potentially be shared. Protect the individual, report the aggregate.
Okay. Shifting to overall project risks, E4, the risk register, is also P0. It tracks risks by probability times impact. What about the big systemic risks, like regulatory hurdles?
Yes. Permitting delays, the bane of infrastructure projects everywhere. This covers everything from local planning permission for a battery site to national grid connection approvals. It's flagged as a high probability, high impact risk.
And the mitigation. Just hope for the best.
No, they have a strategy. First, build in a 2 to 4 week buffer into the schedule, specifically around those early Q1 regulatory milestones, a deliberate cushion to absorb expected delays.
Okay, plan slack.
And second, parallel processing.
Yeah.
Wherever dependencies allow, work on multiple streams at once. Don't wait for permit A if you can be progressing unrelated task B. Maximize time efficiency.
What about data risks? We rely on data for everything from algorithms to billing.
Huge dependency. The risk of incomplete or inconsistent data is significant, especially relying on data feeds from existing players like the DSO.
So how to guarantee good data?
Mitigation involves getting early service level agreements, FLAs, with the DSO. These SLAs legally define the required quality, format, and timeliness of the data feeds. Put it in a contract.
And if the data feed fails anyway?
There has to be a backup. The project mandates defining a fallback methodology for crucial calculations like billing and pricing. What do you do if the real-time meter data isn't available? There needs to be a plan B ready to go.
Finally, stakeholder risk. Lots of different ministries, municipalities, technical bodies involved. How do you prevent misalignment of goals? Everyone pulling in different directions.
That's where formal agreements and shared metrics come in. We saw in A2 the push for signing menus with the municipalities early. Lock in local commitment formally.
Get it in writing.
But more fundamentally, it's about using those common KPIs across the board. When A1, charter, A3, business case, B2, technical KPIs, D2, social plan, and the SIA, investment covenants, are all ultimately driving towards the same core metrics: households benefited, cost reduction, DSCR, BSS availability. It forces alignment.
Everyone's performance is judged against the same scorecard.
Exactly. It reduces the chance of one group optimizing for a goal that undermines another's. Shared goals, shared accountability. Outro.
So, wrapping this deep dive up, it's clear social synergy is a project defined by, well, extreme constraints. That 6-month political window dictates everything.
It really does, and the structure they've built to navigate it is fascinatingly complex. Financial engineering meets social goals, meets hard tech deadlines.
The absolute linchpin seems to be that A1 approval, January 31st. Miss that, and the whole intricate structure starts to wobble.
It's the single biggest choke point, absolutely. Get past A1, and then you see that cascade, finance dictating the pace for tech, and everything feeding into the smart investment agreement.
And that SIA really brings it all together, doesn't it? Tying technical performance like battery uptime and financial health like the DSCR directly to consequences.
And crucially, attempting to tie social outcomes in there too. It crystallizes that dual mission. Prove the financial viability, hit that DSCR of 1.20x or higher, while also delivering measurable social impact, like hitting that energy poverty reduction target. They're trying to make both non-negotiable.
It's a really interesting tension. We saw how technical failures, like the BSS availability dropping below 98%, trigger direct financial penalties for the operator.
Yeah, lower fees.
But then social successes like beating the key erosion avoidance target or helping more vulnerable households result in a bonus payment into that KSY revenue pool.
Which leads to, I think, a really provocative question for you, the listener, to think about as this project hopefully moves into that critical Q2 execution phase. We see financial failure, like breaching the DSCR covenant, can literally halt the project's expansion. Technical failure leads to penalties. Social success leads to a bonus. But if the ultimate goal here, the synergy in social synergy, is truly about maximizing social benefit.
Should the framework go further?
Right. Should project management and investment frameworks give the same weight to hitting impact KPIs, like reducing energy poverty by the target percentage, as they do to hitting financial KPIs like the DSCR? Should failure on the social mandate carry consequences as severe as failure on the debt covenant in terms of deciding if the project continues or expands?
So, is a bonus for social success enough? Or should social failure have the power to trigger a standstill too? A fundamental question about priorities in public interest projects.
Exactly. Something to consider, especially when balancing public good with private investment realities.
A fascinating point to end on. Thanks for navigating us through this incredibly dense, high-stakes blueprint.
My pleasure. It was quite the deep dive.
Indeed. Until next time, keep digging deeper.